It's great. Man, it's always a super Sunday. So as much as he says it's great to be alive and great to be here, I echo every word of that. It's good to have you guys packing the place out this morning to be with God, carve out that time with God, and make it a priority to begin your week. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Before we get into the series, which is on the book Wonderful, let me talk about what's coming up around the corner. Is Easter's not too far off. So on February 25th, we're going to start a brand new teaching series called Easter People. And on Easter People is going to dive into some of those significant stories of the people around the Easter story, which really will just be an on-ramp and help us get ready for Easter. And so come and be inspired. It's 5 weeks, 5 stories of how you and I can live a deeper faith and really get inspired by some of the people that are wrapped around that Easter story. So coming up on February 25th, brand new teaching series. When we wrap up Wonderful, we'll jump right into Easter People, and you won't want to miss that. So let's talk about Wonderful, though. It's the book that I've written, and if you were here 2 weeks ago, everyone got a copy. If you're needing a copy, they're available out in the lobby that you can pick up and purchase to read. And we're going through these lanes of how to be fulfilled, because the premise of the book is how to live a fulfilled life in a very full world. And so I know that we're busy and we're active and doing things and we're cramming things into our life, but we still don't feel fulfilled. Let me say it this way: we're not getting any satisfaction. We don't feel the significance of life, even though we have a lot in our life. And so the book is really, well, how do we find that fulfillment? So we talked about how we fill our lives up with God and how that's the foundation and that's critically important. And then last week we talked about these ingredients that we put into our lives, because there's things that we can put into our lives that will help us fill our lives up with God. And today I want to shift into a new lane and talk about how we can find fulfillment through people and through family and friends and spending time with people. And I actually took, if you've read the book, or I'm just going to assume you have. So if you're going to read the book, I actually took some time in chapter 5 and I unpacked a very personal story about my parents and about the time with them. And I really wrote from the lens of well, let me just tell you this. In 2019, my father found out that he had cancer, and that was a blow to the family, but we went into the doctor, and they got on some treatments, and things were going well until the cancer got into his brain, and then there wasn't much that they could do. And then at that moment, we knew that there were weeks left. And at weeks left, we pretty much moved into my parents' house and just spent hours upon hours around the clock with my mom and with my dad and my family, my sister's family. And we spent time, and there were some really good days of, playing cards with dad, telling stories, watching shows together, still grilling out and doing all those things. And we took advantage of every moment and every time that we had. And so we spent as much time as we could. And then it started getting to where his function was even less and less. And then that time shifted to gathering in rooms, really quiet, holding hands, holding his hand, speaking into his life, letting him speak into ours, and just spending some real cherished time with my dad. He passed away on Saturday before Easter that year. And then our family just kind of took a moment to digest what just happened and kind of, take a deep breath and try to kind of bounce back into life. But it was just a few months after that my mom was having some back pain and some side pain, and I was actually traveling home from a vacation, and my sister called and said, "Hey, we're going to take mom to the ER. Her back's really hurting." I said, "Okay, I'm in Nashville. I'm 5 hours away. If you need anything, I can't be home for 5 more hours." And then we were driving home, and then I got to about Carbondale. So if you're familiar with our area, that's 2 hours then from home. And my sister calls, and she's just weeping, and she says, "Mom's got cancer all through her body." And then says, and the doctor says she only has a couple weeks to live. Now, remember, this was just 2 to 3 months before we just lost my dad. And so then all of a sudden, we moved my mom into my house, because now there's no one to take care of her for her at her house, and she lived in Charleston. My sister's family and my family live here, and so we moved my mom into my house, and then literally for the next 2 to 3 weeks, everything was just, it was like Grand Central Station at my house. Like everyone was over, cousins were over, church friends were over, you know, and then when it got to those last days, it was 24/7. My family, my sister's family were there, sleeping on the floor, sleeping on the couch, you know, spending as much time as we can with my mom. And then we're back to holding hands again, looking at my mom, who's not really functioning very well, and just knowing, man, this is it. Like, this is the time, and you're holding her hand as much as you can. And as much as that time, I would say, was sad, I look back at that and say, I'm so thankful for that. So thankful for the time that we had and the time that we could cherish being together and retelling stories and having the meals around the tables and around outdoors and all those times. And I was able to sit back, and my family and my sister were like, we have zero regrets on how this happened. We have good relationship. We have good relationship with one another. And in those moments, we just spent a lot, hours, hundreds of hours of precious time together. And to this day, I've never been closer to my sister than I am today. Like those seasons, those months that really blur into time that I can't even remember when was, one was my mom and when was my dad. It's just one long, kind of a blurry season. But because of that, my sister and I, we're so close, and we have such great friendship, and we can reflect on that time that the family came together and we just spent time together. Now, during that time, I was holding my dad's hand, and we were at his house at the time, and there was times I would just need to get away and get out in the garage and just kind of walk around a little bit. But then when I was out in the garage, I'd see his tools, and I asked myself, like, why did I never ask my dad to teach me to weld? Like, that was his career. That's what he did. He was an expert at that, and I never asked him to weld. I was just too busy with my time and my life. But then there was times, and then I wondered when my mom was passing, like, why didn't we travel a little bit more? Why didn't we go on family vacations more with my family? But it wasn't always just those type of questions. I was just very thankful, too, for the fact that my mom prioritized holidays and prioritized family gatherings. And this day, it's still in our DNA that if it's a holiday, we're with family. Tonight, I'm at my sister's house for Super Bowl party. The big game party. So why? Because it's been in our DNA, because my parents embedded that in us, in the DNA and the time that we spent together. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for the moment that I got called one day from my dad's pastor and said, hey, your dad responded to the Lord this Sunday and he wants to get water baptized. Would you like to come to church and baptize him? And I got the opportunity to baptize my dad. And those are just some precious, precious moments, times, memories that I have. But it's because we spent time together and gave us an opportunity to build those. And I'm just wondering if the thief that we've talked about, remember the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. It's in John 10:10, but Jesus comes to give life and life to the full. I wonder if sometimes the thief steals time away. I wonder the reason we're not truly fulfilled is because we're not spending time with the people in our lives that matter most. And are you, ask yourself, am I too busy, or am I so busy that I'm not spending time with my family, with my kids, with those who matter most? Let me show you a little illustration here. There's 936 gumballs in here, and this represents how many weeks you have with your child from birth to when they eventually move out of the house when they're 18, not when they're 36, when they're 18. And so these represent weeks. So like every time a week goes by, you're like, okay, that week's gone, and that week's gone. And so if you have a 9-year-old today, like you've already lost, like half that time's gone. So that's gone, and now you're left with this. If you have a 9-year-old, now if you have a teenager, now you can count the gumballs. And this illustration isn't to discourage you at all. It's to help us understand that time matters. and time can be counted. And the time that we have with friends and family, like everything that we can do together in our family time, it really is critical. And if you're watching sports, and tonight you're going to be watching the football game, and if it's a close game, let's hope it's a close game, when there's only minutes left in the game, everything gets more urgent. Everything, like, it really boils down to this is important. There's only 5 minutes left. Every down counts. Every play counts. Every time you touch the ball, it counts. Because you're looking at the time, and you're going, there's less on the clock. There's less on the clock. There's less on the clock. And I wonder if we could do that with our own lives, because we could go, oh my goodness, there's less on the clock. We don't have as much time. You guys have to do this in your home. As a church, did you know the way that we can invest in you guys as a church is we only have about 35 to 40 weeks a year to invest in you. Hours, because we're here for about an hour. So I have about 40 hours a year to invest and spend time with you guys. But as a family, it's up to you how much you're going to spend with one another. Time matters, and the clock is ticking, and we either take advantage of the fact that we know the clock is real, and we have to get serious about our family time. Let's be people who prioritize this time and do everything we can to be fulfilled with the people in our lives. God's word speaks to this, the importance of time. In fact, the importance of relationships and the time with one another. All the way in the book in Genesis, he creates man, and then he says, you can't be alone. It is not good for man to be alone. And then there's Eve, and there's relationship, and this is the first marriage, and this is you need to be together. That you're not created to just kind of be by yourself, but spend time together. And then if you fast forward through Jesus, you just see interwoven in the life of Jesus is relationship. He loved, he shared meals, he engaged in deep conversations, asked great questions, would make sure he's over at people's houses and homes, and he's inviting people over, and he's gathering, and he's spending time with people. And it wasn't just out of some kind of obligated conversation. Like it was like a spiritual necessity in the life of Jesus is to spend time with his disciples and spend time. And Jesus' pace was so much different than what everybody else was wanting. They're like, come on, Jesus, we got to go. And he pauses. He goes, no. There's this girl that needs healed. And he pauses and he waits and he spends time. So there's something about Jesus, the pace of Jesus and the priority of relationships that we have to listen in on, and we have to take advantage of to say, okay, if Jesus can live like that, and everybody wanted Jesus' attention, if Jesus can live like that, we can live like that. The Apostle Paul writes this in Ephesians chapter 5. He says, make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Like, take opportunity. Every moment counts. Every opportunity that we don't want it to just pass by. We don't want to just, there's always tomorrow. We'll deal with that later. Like in this particular passage, Paul is literally saying this is a spiritual opportunity. I don't want to take this out of context. He's saying, you need to take opportunity to tell people about Jesus. Invest your faith into someone else. Make sure that you take advantage of these opportunities of conversations at work, conversations around the family table, around dinner, in the van, when you're giving the kiddos a bath at night. Take advantage of every opportunity because your time counts, and we don't want to waste it, and we don't want it just to slip by. The psalm writer writes in the 90th chapter, Psalm 90 says, so teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. So he's saying, listen, there is a clock. There is a measurement system. There's something in us. And when he writes this is actually a prayer. So when you read Psalm chapter 90, it's a prayer, and he's saying, God, teach me to number my days. Help me, God, to take priority of the moments, the time that I have. Teach me to number my days is this prayer, asking God, help me understand the brevity of life. Help me understand that it can go by just so quick. The next thing you know, you have a full thing of time, and the next thing you look around and there's not very many left. So we have to make sure that, Lord, teach me to number my days, prioritize this. Most people live with very little awareness that life is short, yet our days are numbered. And then you look at even younger, like the younger generation, if you're in high school today and you're in middle school today, you live life as if you'll just forever live. And we don't have this understanding that the days are still numbered, even though to the life of a child and a middle school and a high school students, they can't comprehend that their days are numbered as well. It's just we're living in the moment. But they're numbered, and the days matter. James writes this in chapter 4. Look here, you who say, today or tomorrow we are going to a certain town, and we'll stay there a year, we'll do our business. So he's saying, hey, I got this plan, I got this idea, we're going to get over there. Some of you guys have got a plan for what your next year looks like, and this is what you're going to do with your business. We will do business there and make a profit. And then James asks, well, how do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like a morning fog. Other translations call that a vapor. Your life is like a vapor, like the morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. And James is helping us understand that life is like a vapor. It's like this fog. And we know that in the last 2 weeks, right? It's like, oh, it's foggy out, and then the fog goes away, and then it's back, and it goes away. And it's like life is like that. Here it is, and then it's gone. And so we don't always know how many gumballs we have in life. It's like it's there. We think we have a lot, and then maybe we don't have as much as we want. And because we don't know exactly how many weeks we have on this earth, we better take advantage of spending time with our loved ones when we have it. And I can promise you this, you have it now, but it's not guaranteed to have it tomorrow. So the day that you have, the moment that you have right now, take advantage of it. Take advantage of the time that you have. And so today I want us to get super practical, and I want to help you guys understand that there's 5, you'll never regret investing in these 5 areas of relationships. I want you to take some notes on this. This is from my own life experience. This is also just from being a pastor for 25 years. I want to pass this on to you today, and I want you to comprehend this today. Number 1 would be this. You'll never regret maximizing your time with your kids. You'll never regret that. You'll never go, oh, I just spent way too much time with my kids. You'll never regret that. Like you'll never regret the moments that you have in their life. You won't. There's going to be a day. Let me speak from experience. There will be a day, and let me say it from my life, so you don't have to think about this in your life. There will be a day I'm on my deathbed, okay? And the family, my boys, Dakota, Riley, Cooper, and at that time, hopefully, they've got 3 wives and 50 grandkids and 500 great-grandkids, and hopefully I live 112, and there's great-great-great-grandkids. And they're going to be holding my hand. And I can tell you, when they're holding my hand, they're not going to be remembering, oh, remember when Dad had that church, and there was just so many people in that church, and they had 3 services, and they had 4, 5, 6 campuses, and remember the field. No, they're not. They're going to hold my hand and go, remember when we went camping? Remember when he taught us to play football, and we had those 3 crazy routes that he had funny names on, and one was just go deep, go left, go right, but we thought we were in the NFL in our backyard. Remember that? Remember when we bought a pop-up trailer and Dad didn't even know how to back up a trailer, and we went all the way to, remember that? Remember when we had that dog and then another dog and then another dog and then another? Remember all the pets? Remember, and I can promise you this, they're not going to talk about my work. They're going to talk about our life. Can I say this? It's more about the backyard than it is about the boardroom. And that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember the memories, the family memories, and the time together more than they're going to remember the work. And so let's make sure that we prioritize those backyard moments, not those boardroom moments. You'll never regret spending time with your kids. Number 2 would be this, is you'll never regret investing in a healthy marriage. So if you're married today, if you're almost married today, if you're going to be married, if you were married and considering, if you're in middle school and you're going to get married, in 40 years because your parents don't want to think about you getting married, I just lean in and listen though. You have to spend time. This isn't just a kid thing. This is a marriage thing too. I only have so many gumballs with joy. And so I need to make sure that we have these weekends and we have these moments and that we're prioritizing, because if we get busy, I can promise you this, when Joy and I get busy and I go this direction and she goes this direction and she's handling this area of our life and I'm handling this area of our life and we're not seeing each other very much and we're going a lot of different directions, our communication is really poor. And when our communication is poor, there's a lot of tension in the marriage and there's a lot of conversation that needs to happen that's not happening, and it's frustrating because we're not spending time together. We're just doing things. And a lot of times we're doing things in a different direction. And when we do things in a different direction, there's no unity and there's no harmony. And we're not coming together and doing life together. And we need that. What do we do to try to counter that? Together, we've decided we're going to take a kidless trip every year. That might be a one-night overnight thing. That might be a one-week thing. I'm trying to convince her to take a month away, but we haven't figured that out yet. But someday when we're retired and those kids are out of the nest, we'll do something like that. But right now in our season of life, just trying to figure out how to take a kidless trip. Take the time to find the babysitter, call the grandparents, bribe the aunts and uncles, whatever you have to do to take that kidless trip. And then take date nights or date days or get together and have coffee together or have a breakfast together, or the kids are at school and you find a way to meet at the same place for lunch together. But don't stop dating because you got married. Continue to date and build relationship there. I would encourage you as a married couple, get in a small group together. There's 3 semesters a year. I would say one of the 3 be in a group together. If you can be in it all 3, great. But maybe one semester you want to go 2 different directions. But be in a small group together. And if that's not working out, get on our dream team. Go to Growth Track. Get on our dream teams and serve together. You want to build healthy relationship in marriage. Number 3 would be this, is you'll never regret caring for your aging parents. I was praying about this last week and thinking about this, and I just came up with this phrase, and maybe it's out there. I don't know, but if it's not, I want to coin it. So in case it gets really popular and I can make a gazillion dollars. But it would be called reversing the care, because reversing the care is they cared for us when we were children, or all growing up, our parents cared for us. And then they get to an older age where now it's our turn to care for them. And we're reversing the care. And I can promise you, you'll never regret the time of putting care and love into your aging parents. It's worth it. It's worth saying, I'm going to take the time to care for my parents in that stage of their life. And then a side note is just don't compare what you're doing with your older parents and your aging parents from what the siblings are doing. Because then I see a lot of fighting and a lot of comparison of, well, my sister won't do this or my brother won't do this, and I'm doing this for mom and dad and my brother won't, and we spend money on mom and dad and my sister won't. And quit comparing what you're doing with your family to what the other siblings are. You just take care of what you can do, and you'll never regret caring for your aging parents. You'll never regret that. Number four would be this, is you'll never regret prioritizing people over profits. Like in your life, in your work, just remember work isn't just a paycheck. It's all about people. And so always kind of have people are more important than policy. People are more important than profits. People are more important than some process that I go through. It's people first. You'll never regret spending time with people at work and life and making sure that the people and the relationship is more important than the profits that you might be making. So that's for those in business. That's for those who've got employees. That's for you guys in a work environment. Prioritize the people that you do work with more than the profits and the money that's attached to it. And then last would be this: you'll never regret showing compassion to someone in need. You'll never regret this. These are people you may not even know. They're hurting, they're needy, they need something, and you're literally saying that the heart of God is to take care of those who are hurting. You'll never regret stepping in and being the hands and the feet of Jesus. And the more and more time that you can show compassion to people, the more you're reflecting and representing who Christ really is, and that is extremely fulfilling. It was a few years ago, I was able to go with Joy and a team from here at the Fields, and we went to Tanzania. And when we were in Tanzania, we were just honored to be able to be a part of a food program where we're giving these precious, precious kids the only hot meal they would ever receive. If they wouldn't have gone to school that day, and they wouldn't have partnered with Convoy of Hope, one of our incredible missions kingdom builder partners, then they wouldn't have got fed that day. And so as a team, we got to go. And I can tell you, we would take this cup and we would put it on a plate and we would give it to them. And when we filled their stomach, it filled our cup. Like, it was so satisfying. It was so fulfilling to know that we are stepping in and helping people who are in need. And we need that. One last story here. Jesus was, we're going to celebrate this at Easter, but he was arrested, he was killed on a cross, he was put into this grave, and then he was resurrected. And then before he ascended into heaven, he spent some time with some disciples. And he goes, and at that moment when Jesus was killed and on the cross and in the grave, the disciples scattered. They were scared. They were lonely. They were confused. They didn't know what to do. Peter and some of them went back to what was comfortable, and they were fishing. Jesus walks up to the shoreline, and he sees his disciples. And he didn't say, I thought you were supposed to go be the church and go. Hey, what are you doing fishing? No. He calls them in, and he literally says this: hey, come, let's have breakfast. And he begins to make a breakfast for them on the side of the seashore. And he's like, of all the things I could say right now, let's just sit and have breakfast. Come, have breakfast. And when I think about that, I think, what if we had a come have breakfast mentality in our entire life? Every relationship we had, we would slow down and we would realize, let's slow the clock down. Let's slow the clock down and let's have a come have breakfast mentality. I just want to spend time. I want to ask you about your day. I want to get involved in your life. Let's just slow things down and let's spend time with the people who matter most in our lives. You'll never regret that. You'll never regret having a come, let's have breakfast mentality. You'll never regret taking time to say, I got 1,000 things I could tell you about and a lot on the to-do list, but let's just come have breakfast. You'll never regret that, because the way we're designed and the way the economy of God is relationships come first. You want fulfillment in life? Fill yourself up with people and spend time with them. Spend quality time with them. Find a way to slow the clock down and spend time with the people that matter most. The most important relationship you can have is, your kids, yes, your marriage, yes, your coworkers, but it's also your relationship with God. And so what you really need to do this morning before we really think about what can I do with my kids is, do I have a relationship with God, and have I slowed my life down enough to say, he's either in my life or he's missing. And if he's missing, today you can invite him into your life and begin there, because that's the greatest relationship you can have, is inviting Jesus into your life. So he looks at you and goes, hey, let's come have breakfast. Come on, Travis, let's sit down. Let's spend some time together. Jesus wants that for you. Why don't you stand up and close your eyes for just a moment? I'm going to pray for you.